Welcome to OMARanger004, and today we will talk about Wally West. But before we start, please join me on Patreon by OMARanger004. Your small donation helps run the channel. With that out of the way, let's begin. Wallace Rudolph. Wally West is a fictional superhero appearing in American comic books published by DC Comics as the original Kid Flash and the third Flash. 1. His power consists mainly of superhuman speed. The nephew of Iris West, he first appeared in Flash number 110, 1959, which depicted his transformation into Kid Flash. Under the mantle of Kid Flash, Wally was depicted as a teenage sidekick to his uncle Barry and a founding member of the Teen Titans. After Barry's death in Crisis on Infinite Earths in 1985, Wally took on the role of the Flash from 1986 to 2009 in DC's main lineup until Barry returned in The Flash: Rebirth. Even so, Wally is the fastest character to ever hold the mantle of the Flash and a fan favorite. He would later return as the main Flash since 2021, as part of the Infinite Frontier relaunch. In his debut as the Flash, Wally wears a distinct red and gold costume which, like his uncle, he traditionally stores compressed inside a ring. He later creates a costume directly out of Speed Force energy. Following his return in 2016, Wally is able to easily generate white lightning, which means his connection to the Speed Force is stronger than ever. During the first stage of his return, he temporarily wore an alternate red and silver costume when he wasn't the main Flash. Generally portrayed as a white man with red hair and green eyes, Wally was reinterpreted biracial for DC's 2011 New 52 relaunch. A desire from fans to see the original interpretation of the character restored, however, led to Wally returning in 2016's DC Rebirth, while his New 52 reinterpretation was revealed as a separate character renamed as Wallace in order to avoid confusion. Wally West has appeared in many other forms of media and was featured as the incarnation of the Flash in the Cartoon Network series Justice League, voiced by Michael Rosenbaum, and the 2010 film Justice League: Crisis on Two Earths, voiced by Josh Keaton. As Kid Flash, he appeared in Cartoon Network's Young Justice series, voiced by Jason Spacek. Kid Flash Wallace Rudolph West II, or Wally West, was created by John Broome and Carmen Infantino and introduced in The Flash number 110, 1959. The character was the nephew of the existing Flash character's girlfriend and later wife, Iris West. During a visit to the Central City Police Laboratory where Barry Allen worked, the freak accident that gave Allen his powers repeated itself, bathing Wally in electrically charged chemicals. Now possessing the same powers as the Flash, West donned a smaller-sized copy of Barry Allen's Flash outfit and became the young crime fighter Kid Flash. Wally had a strained relationship with his own parents and often looked to his beloved aunt and uncle for moral support and guidance. He also operated as a lone superhero in his hometown, Blue Valley, Nebraska, when not partnering with the Flash. This costume was later altered, in The Flash number 135, 1963, to one that would make him more visually distinctive. 2. The original red was replaced with a costume that was primarily yellow with red leggings, gloves and lightning bolt emblem. The earpieces initially remained yellow, but became red in later issues. In addition to his appearances within the Flash title, the character was a founding member of the newly created Teen Titans, where he became friends with Dick Grayson, then known as Robin, later known as Nightwing. Sometime later, Wally contracted a mysterious illness that affected his entire bodily system. The more he used his speed powers, the faster his body deteriorated. This could have been caused by one of two things. Wally was a boy when the electrified chemicals altered his body, which was still developing and maturing, as opposed to Barry Allen, who was already an adult when his accident occurred, or when he was struck with a weapon during his time with the Teen Titans. As such, as Wally's body matured, his altered body chemistry was slowly killing him. The Flash during the 1985-1986 miniseries Crisis on Infinite Earths, Barry gave his life to save the Earth when destroying the antimatter cannon that was aimed at Earth. 3. Initially unaware of this, Wally was coaxed by Jay Garrick into assisting the heroes against the Anti-Monitor's forces. During the final battle with the Anti-Monitor, Wally was struck by a blast of antimatter energy, which cured his disease. In the aftermath of the conflict, Wally took on his fallen mentor's costume and identity. 4. The decision by DC Comics' Oriole staff to radically change their fictional universe saw a number of changes to the status quo of the character. Wally West became the new Flash, but less powerful than his predecessor. 1. For example, instead of being able to reach the speed of light, he could run just faster than that of sound. 4. Also, the character had to eat vast quantities of food to maintain his metabolism. 5. Those changes were quickly followed up in 1987 saw the publication of a new Flash comic, initially written by Mike Baron. These stories focused not only on the Flash's superhero exploits, but the state of Wally's wealth. West won a lottery. 6. Bought a large mansion. 7. And began dating beautiful women. The character's finances and luck continued to ebb and wane until The Flash Volume 2 number 62, when his fortunes. The 1990s also saw further modifications to the look of the character, with a modified uniform appearing in 1991. 8. This modified costume altered the visual appearance of the traditional Flash costume, with a belt made of 2 connecting lightning bolts meeting in A, B, at the front, where Allen's costume had a single bolt in a horizontal band, removal of the wings from the top of his boots, a change in the material of his costume, and opaque lenses added to the eyes of his cowl. This modified design utilized elements of the costume designed by artist Dave Stevens for the live-action television series The Flash. A difficult encounter was made with a vicious foe, the first Reverse Flash Eobard Thawne. Thawne had been killed by Barry Allen shortly before Allen's death, but this version of Thawne was from a time period before he originally became Allen's enemy. Also served to increase the speed of the character, forcing him to push past a psychological block he had placed on his powers. To prevent himself from truly replacing Barry, Wally had subconsciously limited his speed so that he could never become his mentor's equal. But when Thawne arrived in the present and briefly posed as Barry Allen, his bragging that he would become the true Flash forced Wally past this block, as he feared Thawne replacing Barry more than he feared himself doing so. 9. After this encounter, he was again Barry Allen's equal in speed, and eventually became even faster. Though he still had not been able to recover Barry's vibrational, phasing abilities for a time, he could vibrate through objects, but this would cause the object to explode. He gained several new powers that Barry never had. He was able to share, steal speed, use his speed to kinetically upgrade his attacks, and super heal others. Writer Mark Waid expanded on the character's powers thematically and further redefined the character by introducing the Speed Force, an energy source that served as a pseudo-scientific explanation for his powers and that of other fictional speedsters within the DC universe. Using this concept as a basis, the character's ability to tap into the Speed Force was used to expand his abilities. The character was now able to lend speed to other objects and people 10, 11, and create a costume directly out of Speed Force energy. Traditional powers such as the ability to vibrate through solid objects were also restored. Because of this, the Flash felt pressured into having to constantly be heroic 24/7. During this time, he joined the latest incarnation of the Justice League. The 2000s saw writer Jeff Johns revitalize the character by introducing new versions of characters such as Zoom, making significant use of the roads, and marrying the character to longtime girlfriend Linda Park. 12 other changes included restoring the Flash to a secret identity. His identity had been public since shortly after Barry Allen's death, but the traumatic events of his first battle with Zoom prompted Wally to make a deal with the Spectre to erase his identity from public knowledge, although this was initially so successful that even Wally forgot he was the Flash. During the Identity Crisis crossover, Wally and Kyle Rayner learned Dr. Light's mind wiped by the original Justice League and the cause of the villain's transformation from a dangerous serial rapist to an ineffectual buffoon. When Dr. Light vows revenge against the League, Wally realizes that the villain is again a powerful threat. He then warns the Teen Titans and Outsiders not to underestimate Dr. Light, and later joins their fight against him. In the miniseries Infinite Crisis, as a narrative device, Wally West and his family were seen leaving for an alternative reality. This allowed the character Bart Allen to become the fourth Flash and headline a relaunched third volume of the title, called The Flash, The Fastest Man Alive. The critical reaction to this new version of The Flash was mixed and Bart was killed off in the final issue of the short-lived third volume. It was decided that Wally West should return, and the JLA-JSA story, The Lightning Saga, was used to return the character to Earth along with his wife and children, who appear to have aged several years. The character next appeared in All Flash number 1, 2007, seeking vengeance on those who had killed Bart Allen. This was followed by The Flash Volume 2, which resumed publication after the long hiatus with issue number 231, October 2007. The series found the character struggling with trying to raise his two super-powered twins, plagued by accelerated growth and their inexperience in the heroic game, a task made more difficult by Wally's unemployment, his inability to keep a steady job, and the mistrust of the League for his decision to bring two children into the fold. The series was cancelled with issue number 247, February 2009. In Final Crisis, the character was reunited with Barry Allen, who had returned to life. Blackest Night. During the Blackest Night, Wally West assists Barry Allen in spreading the word to every hero on Earth about the rise of the Black Lantern Corps. When Black Hand brings back Nekron, Barry is attacked by an army of Black Lanterns. While struggling to fight them off, Wally comes to his rescue, bringing with him the Justice League and Teen Titans, Bart Allen, the Kid Flash, among them. The three Flashes fight their way through Black Lanterns and charge at Nekron. Before they can strike, the Black Lantern Guardian Scar attacks them, attempting to convince them into becoming Black Lanterns. Right after, Hal Jordan and the leaders of the Seven Lantern Corps arrive to assist. The heroes attack the Black Lanterns, but when Black Hand reanimates Batman's corpse as a Black Lantern, the resulting emotional shock allows the Black Lantern rings to latch onto the resurrected heroes, transforming Superman, Superboy, Wonder Woman, Green Arrow, Black Canary, and Kid Flash into Black Lanterns. Black Lantern Bart Allen attacks Barry Allen, and the two brawl for a moment before Wally fights him off. A pair of Black Lantern rings then lock onto Barry and Hal. Wally flees with Barry telling him to stay and protect himself and Bart. Barry and Hal then flee the scene to avoid becoming Black Lanterns. Return. The New 52 and DC Rebirth. Following the 2011 reboot of the DC Comics universe, Wally West appears to have never existed. A seemingly new interpretation of Wally West was introduced in the Flash Volume 4 Annual Number 3, originally portrayed as the New 52 version of the classic and original character and the biracial son of Rudy West, This biracial Wally, renamed Wallace West in later comics to avoid confusion, was retconned in DC Rebirth #1 as being the cousin of Wally West, and the son of the new 52 Reverse Flash, Daniel West. Both cousins are explained as having been named after their great-grandfather. The existence of Wally West is hinted at in the final issue of Titans Hunt, in which the various original Teen Titans remember their bond to each other, but realize that they are still forgetting an important final member of their team. They look out to the ocean as lightning strikes. 13. Wally West is reintroduced to DC continuity a week later in a DC Rebirth story. The story reveals that following the Flashpoint event, Wally became lost in the Speed Force for 10 years. While trapped, he came to realize that Barry had not been responsible for the mutation of the New Earth universe into Prime Earth, but that an unknown entity had used Barry's time traveling as an opportunity to fundamentally alter reality. The fallout of the recent Darkseid War allowed Wally to try and reach out to his former friends in the hopes of either returning or warning them of the truth. Each attempt caused him to fall further into the Speed Force. After realizing that not even Linda, his traditional lightning rod, could remember him, Wally sank into desolation and chose to appear before his uncle, Barry, one last time to thank him for the life he had given him. Just before Wally disappeared, Barry remembered him and dragged him out of the Speed Force. Wally's presence integrates his pre-Flashpoint history to the new timeline to accommodate his existence, resetting his past and those who associated with him. Following a tearful reunion, Wally gave Barry his warning of the true source of the universal change and the dangers to come. 14. Although the two decide to keep Wally's return secret from Iris based on Wally's own experience with Linda, Barry encourages him to return to the Titans, but also recommends that he don a new costume to reflect that he is the Flash rather than Kid Flash. 15. 16. Wally goes to the Titans, and through both physical contact to Nightwing, Donna Troy, Arsenal, Tempest and Lilith Clay, with the Speed Force reminding them of their memories with him, creating a new history. After an emotional reunion with his friends, he tells them of the situation. Wally believes that the unknown entity will attack again to prevent them from finding out the truth, which they will do together as Titans. 17. Directly after the events in Titans Rebirth, Lilith has Wally repeat the story of his return in order for her to use it as a means of making the mental connections between him, herself and the Titans stronger. While doing this, she notices the most powerful thought in Wally's mind is that of Linda Park, which sparks various, but supportive, reactions from the other Titans. Nightwing encourages Wally to seek Linda out and try and make new memories with her. Elsewhere, Linda is still puzzled by Wally's sudden presence in her life and decides to investigate him further. 18. During a confrontation with Abracadabra, Wally is forced to push himself so fast that he is sent into the Speed Force while trying to save her and the other Titans from being killed by Kadabra. 19. But in a conversation with a manifestation of his memories of Linda, Wally is encouraged not to give up on the idea that he can make a new relationship with her in this timeline, subsequently using his memories of the Titans as a new lightning rod to return to Earth. 20. Afterwards, Wally is visited by Superman, who confirms that he, like Wally, remembers the world that existed before history was. Ed. 21. Later, Deathstroke wanted to use the Speed Force to save his son and takes out Wally. Wallace West and Damian Wayne managed to save Wally, but Damian Wayne had to stop Wally West's heart momentarily, making Wally West have a heart pacer. After that adventure, while on a mission with the Titans, Wally learned that he has the ability to go fast and stop time as well. After a battle against Simon, Mr. Twister, and the Key, Wally used too much of his abilities, and he seemingly dies. However, Kid Flash Wallace West senses Wally's death and rushes to find him. After noticing Wally West dead, Kid Flash senses that Wally is not completely dead and he revives him by jump-starting his heart, curing Wally of his pacemaker condition. Wally West then helps the Titans defeat Donna Troy's evil self from an alternate future, Troya and the other villains. When Barry confronts Wally about how he has not made any real effort to make contact with Iris, rebuild things with Linda, or even try to make a new life for himself, Wally tries to compensate for this by tracking down Frances Kane, but his initial contact with her also reawakens her old psychological issues, causing her to attack Wally before he calms her down by confessing his own fears about his current circumstances. Inspired by this conversation, Wally calls Dick Grayson to help him purchase an apartment. However, Wally is unaware that his friend-turned-foe hunter Zolomon has returned. Now in a position of authority in the 25th century, Zolomon sends the renegades into the past to arrest Iris for the murder of Eobard Thawne with the intention of provoking a war between the Flashes in order to make the true Flash stronger through tragedy. 22. After the Flash family defeated Gorilla Grodd in a battle, Wally meets Iris for the first time after his disappearance. He begins remembering pre-Flashpoint memories after Iris remembers him. However, a confrontation with his former ally Hunter Zolomon provokes Barry and Wally into conflict, as Hunter convinces Wally that the Speed Force must be destroyed to release those missing allies still trapped within it, including Wally's children, Jay and Iris West, Max Mercury and Impulse. Wally became determined to break the Speed Force open in a bid to free them, which led to a frantic chase, with Barry Allen trying to stop Wally before he did something drastic, remembering all too well the damage he himself had done to the Time Stream attempting to stop his mother's murder during the Flashpoint event. Unfortunately, Wally proved himself to be the true fastest man alive and was able to outrun Barry and create the break he wanted. The resulting explosion sent both heroes back to Barry's hometown of Central City and into the clutches of a gloating Zoom, who quickly revealed that his true intention in reminding Wally about the existence of his children was to trick Wally into breaking the Force Barrier, a cosmic barricade that concealed energies that could be tapped into by the right people in much the same way that the Speed Force empowers speedsters. These energies include the Sage Force, seemingly based around telepathic and telekinetic powers, and the Strength Force. Zoom discovered the existence of these energies reading 25th century history books and determined a way to tap into these energies as well as the Speed Force once the Force Barrier was broken. He also donned a replica of Barry Allen's costume, declaring himself the one true Flash, before deciding that he would spare Barry and Wally the pain of their future lives by ending them now. Heroes in Crisis. During the Heroes in Crisis story arc, Wally was initially believed to be one of the massacre's highest-profile victims at the superhero rehabilitation facility known as Sanctuary, but is later revealed to be not only alive but actually the real culprit of the murderers. Wally explains all in his confession, one of the many recorded video transcripts that Wally himself sent to Lois Lane, while identifying himself as the puddler, that he's felt alone since his return, as his family remains wiped from existence, with no one even to remember them, except him. These tortured memories are what led him to Sanctuary in the first place, but he found no comfort there. Instead, he relates how he still felt alone because he didn't see the same kind of pain in its other residents, and the program's anonymity only compounded his feelings of isolation. Wally therefore did some digging of his own into Sanctuary's resident records and uncovered a truth that he had been denying. Every one of the heroes at Sanctuary were in fact coping and trying to overcome their own personal traumas, just as Wally was. Uncovering all this information at super speed led to a flood of emotional experiences that momentarily allowed Wally to understand he wasn't so alone after all. While this realization might have initially given Wally some comfort, it all came to him in a comparative instant. Instead of helping to heal him, the onslaught of emotions broke him. In turn, he momentarily lost control of the powers of the Speed Force contained within him, and in another fateful instant, the powers of the Speed Force were unleashed on the other heroes within Sanctuary, killing them instantly. Wally accessing Sanctuary's files had tripped the facility's alarm, and the moment of Wally's breakdown happened, Harley and Booster were immersed in their respective virtual reality therapy sessions. Taking advantage of that happy coincidence, Wally used his powers to deliver a super speed sleight of hand at Harley and Booster's expense. As each exited their VR chambers, he reprogrammed them and tricked the pair into thinking they had left the chambers, when in fact they had not. Instead of seeing the actual massacre, what each instead saw was the other murdering Wally. From there, Wally stole Booster's time-traveling tech, went 5 days into the future, killed his future self and brought his future body back to present day to leave at the scene. Wally's machinations are what led Booster to discover that dead Wally's body was 5 days too old. Wally then relocated all the bodies of the others he had slain, staging the murders to place himself above suspicion, and set up Harley and Booster as the prime suspects instead. To complete the subterfuge, Wally then destroyed Sanctuary's computer and robot attendants, and scribbled the now infamous, "The Puddlers are all dead," on Sanctuary's living room wall. He successfully misdirected everyone involved in the investigation until Ted Kord, Booster Gold, Batgirl and Harley Quinn figured out that Wally was the key to the murders, and they devised a way to track Wally's time disturbance by utilizing Skeets and Kord Industries tech. They show up just as Wally is about to kill 5 days older Wally, and 5 days Wally reveals that after he accidentally killed everyone in Sanctuary, he didn't travel back in time to unmake his mistake, because that's what Barry did during Flashpoint. Instead he sent the confession files to Lois Lane to try to make up for what happened, telling the world what he'd done at Sanctuary, and encouraging people to get help before they made the same mistakes he did. 5 days Wally reveals that this is the same thing that happened to him 5 days ago, that he also didn't kill the older Wally. Booster Gold explains that they can still close the loop, even without the dead body of 5 days old Wally. They can go to the 25th century and speed clone older Wally. Then younger Wally can take that cloned body back to the past. The Justice League eventually arrived and arrested Wally for the murders. In the Flash number 761, it was revealed that Eobard Thawne was responsible for manipulating Wally into killing the heroes at Sanctuary. Later this whole story was recollected in the Flash Annual Number 1, 2021, stating that Wally West was not responsible for these deaths, and it was revealed that Speed Force itself had actually caused it when trying to expel Savitar from its corridors. Doomsday Clock. In the Watchmen sequel, Doomsday Clock, Lex Luthor mentioned to Lois Lane that someone has been undermining creation, like what Dr. Manhattan did with Wally West and the Justice Society of America. 23, when Dr. Manhattan altered the metaverse, and in turn the multiverse, and created the new 52 universe, Wally prior to being freed in DC Universe. Rebirth number 1 briefly escaped the Speed Force to warn Dr. Manhattan that he knows what the latter did and that the heroes of the DC Universe will stop him. Wally was pulled back into the Speed Force afterwards. 24. Flash forward and Generation Wally is later recruited by Tempus Fuginaut, who wants him to restore the balance between the light and dark multiverses. After saving several universes from being consumed by dark matter, Wally finds the Mobius chair that once belonged to Metron and makes a deal with Fuganot to return his children Jay and Iris, who were trapped in the dark multiverse, to his wife Linda Park. But after sitting upon the chair, Wally, in addition to obtaining a cosmic level of knowledge, also obtains the powers of Dr. Manhattan, after he put a fraction of his power into the chair. Wally's costume and lightning proceeded to turn to the blue of Manhattan, with Manhattan's logo forming on his forehead, and Wally now losing nearly all sense of emotion he had and now seeking logic and knowledge. After finding out that Dr. Manhattan did not completely heal the universe after Doomsday Clock, Wally begins using his newfound powers to set about restoring the timeline. 25. Infinite Frontier. Following the 2021 event Infinite Frontier number 0, Wally is restored as the primary Flash and central character in the Flash series since number 768, after Barry Allen's departure to join Justice Incarnate. Wally's first storyline in the solo title sees him travel through the timeline as he attempts to prevent a destructive release of something in the Speed Force, which sees him meet his daughter, Iris, in the future as an accomplished Flash. In the arc's conclusion, in the Flash Annual 2021, Wally is thrown back to the moment of his greatest torment, the explosion at Sanctuary which killed his friends. He is unburdened by the revelation that this was not his fault, but rather that of the same Speed Force phenomenon, caused by the mad speedster Savitar and the Speed Force's attempts to expel him from its interior. With help from Mr. Terrific, Barry Allen, Green Arrow, and the past Roy Harper shortly before he died at Sanctuary, Wally is able to bring Savitar back with him to the present. Although Savitar easily overcomes Superman and Batman, Barry tells Wally to step up, making use of his superior access to the Speed Force to defeat, depower, and imprison Savitar once again. Redeemed and more powerful than ever, Wally returns to Linda and the kids, enthused to serve as Central City's Flash again. Check out one of our newest videos right here. Plus, even more videos about your favorite comics, movies are coming soon. Join me on Patreon by Omaranger004. Your small donation helps run the channel. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell so you don't miss a single one.